I've been seeing a lot of questions about which combat pant you should buy, which one do I suggest, and I've been seeing a lot of crazy answers. So I thought we'd go ahead and do a short comparison video and examine some of the more common combat pants out there. Now you might have the question, why should I wear combat pants? Well, if you're heading to the range and you want to look like you're a veteran, but you don't want to go full tactical, then the combat pant is for you. Besides that, what makes combat pants good is that they have typically stretch panels, in some cases built-in knee pads, pockets in the correct placement, and an overall good stitching and durable material, which makes them more prone to usage in adverse conditions or asymmetric environments or non-permissive environments, depending on the situation that you might find yourself in. So with all that crap out of the way, let's go ahead and let's talk about the different categories of pants that we have out there. So first off, I'm going to have our Airsoft pants / cosplaying pants, because I always like to take a crap on you guys. We have our BDU type pants / ACU, and then we also have our Crye type cut. Now the question is, why would I call it Crye type cut, as there are plenty of companies who have come out with combat pants with designs similar to Crye or something like that. Oh, we're going to go ahead and stick with the Crye type design since they, for the most part, pioneered the concept. So let's go ahead and let's bring ourselves back to the first one we talked about, and that's going to be our Airsoft type pants. So plenty of companies make your Airsoft type combat pants that are essentially knockoffs of Crye or whatever company they're knocking off. So you have Flash Force Industries, Emerson, blah blah blah. I've checked a lot of them out, and a lot of times they're built with good materials. Typically they have subpar stitching. On the one that I have right here, we have the Flash Force Industries Woodland combat pant that is based off of the Crye Woodlands. And the problem with these is that they look good, but especially on the knees, what happened is they didn't do a very good job of stitching in the Velcro or putting it in the correct location. And they also didn't have very strong Velcro. So what ends up happening is that your knee pads fall out very easily. Another problem is that even if you reinforce the stitching, which I have, there are other parts that are then going to rip and tear because it's just not good stitching overall. Also, the stretch material that they used is not actually very stretchy at all. It's nothing compared to the quality that you see from the Crye Precision pants. As a result, you have lots of blowout sections here, and I would not recommend them for any type of serious use. I've seen this with many other knockoffs out there. I had a buddy who bought a pair of paintball pants that looked just like Crye Precision pants to the untrained eye because he didn't know any better. Nonetheless, he bought them to see how they'd work in field, and they split from the crotch down to mid-thigh on the first day. It was snowing, so he was cold. So don't do that. If you're going to be using these pants for any type of serious usage, don't do Airsoft or the paintball pants or whatever the hell you want to call them. I mean, if you got to look cool at your Yu-Gi-Oh match or whatever, I'm sure they're going to work fine for that. But any type of real usage, hell, even what they were designed for, Airsofting, I think you might want to stick with the real thing. For real though, I do like my Airsoft guys. You guys are cool. So we have Airsoft paintball stuff. Stay away from it. That's not going to be the focus of what my review is going to be on. We're primarily going to be talking about things that can be actually used for real situations. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and let's talk about our BDU / ACU type pants. So the first one I'll talk about is our BDU cut pants. So I have an old pair of tricolor deserts that was issued a while ago that I never used. I actually just kept them in their package until recently because I love tricolor. It's a sweet little camo pattern. But let's talk about what's good about BDU and ACU. We're just going to go ahead and lump them together. What's good about them, what's bad about them. So what's good is that they use a good material. They use a 50/50 Nyko ripstop. So essentially it shouldn't rip that far if it does rip. But that doesn't always happen, because if it rips along a seam, it's going to travel down that seam. What's also good about 50/50 Nyko is that it's a no melt, no drip. So what that means is that once it ignites, and it will ignite, it's not supposed to melt to your skin, which is can be catastrophic if that were to happen. So it will just burn. So you're still going to burn. It's not going to melt to you. So you still have to put it out. It's not self-extinguishing like a lot of the really good flame retardant pants that we're going to talk about in just a little bit here. Another problem with the BDU pants is that they are a little bit baggy, and that can be good or bad because you have a lot of movement, that type of thing. But if they were cut closer to the crotch, cut a little cleaner, then you wouldn't have to have so much of that excess material, and that's what makes Crye Precision and a lot of the more Gucci brands so good, is that because they're cut so well, you don't have to have so much excess material. So that is a problem with the BDUs. And again, what's going to happen with that excess material is it's going to catch on, branches, twigs, that type of thing, and it's going to get in the way. So what's good about them? They work well, they breathe well. The stitching tends to hold up under adverse and hard conditions. The crotches do tend to blow out on the BDUs and the ACUs about equally from what I've seen. It's not a problem if you're in the Navy, but for the rest of us, it's definitely a problem, and you're going to have to keep sewing that up so it becomes a bit of a nuisance. Going along with that same thing of kind of the BDU ACU, when I was going through team, we were issued a set of Truspec combat shirt and pants. So I know a lot of people have been asking me about 511 Truspec and kind of where do those lie, and they lie somewhere within the kind of the BDU frame. Now the problem with it is that you can get a pair of BDU pants for really cheap. We're talking $10 to $20, and they're going to work really well depending on the camo that you select for your environment. Woodland, desert, multicam, whatever. When you move over to 511 and Truspec, a lot of times you're buying essentially the same thing, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. In this case, this was issued to me, so it wasn't that big a deal. But we'll talk about what makes this pair good, because I will say this. This pair did get me through team, and it was the only pair of pants I wore for about 6 months straight, outdoors doing some really hard work. So there's something to be said about that. A couple of the neat features of this particular pant are, one, it's made of ripstop material, again 50/50 NICA, which is an incredibly popular fabric to use because it is so durable. Another cool thing about it is that it has built-in knee pads. Now, they're knee pads in the loosest sense of the term, in that they're merely a reinforced section of the pant to ensure that when you're taking a knee that you're not going to braid through the ripstop. But it does work quite well. It has these little plastic kind of bead things on the outside of the knee pad to help, I guess, give you traction when you take a knee, and also to protect the fabric itself. And they work pretty well. They definitely skinned off over time. I've lost, actually not that many. I've lost maybe 1/10 of them over the 6 months that I use them. But again, I use these very hard, and daily I live in these things. So they did very well. Now, what was good about these particular pants is they have a really good crotch reinforcement. So I never had any type of blowouts regarding to my crotch. And I know that disappoints the Navy guys, but for the rest of us, it made us very happy. And I didn't see any of my other fellow teammates blow out the crotches on theirs either. Now, what did rip on these was the cargo pockets. They'd constantly snag on branches and get torn, and then we'd have to repair them. So I definitely had to do that from time to time. Another good thing about these particular pants compared to the BDUs is that they do have wider belt loops. This is important if you're planning to have anything on your belt, because that weight's going to tug down on them, and if they're not wide and reinforced to support all that weight, it's going to be a bit of a hassle for you. So in this case, they're wide enough to support quite a bit of weight. I carried a lot of weight on my belt when I was going through team, and it's one reason why I hate having things on my belt nowadays. But nonetheless, it survived very well. Things that I don't like about it that I would change, and that I want you guys to think about. The problem I see with this one right here is that it has a zipper on the fly. I prefer buttons if at all possible. Buttons are easier to repair because all you need is a sewing kit to fix them, versus a zipper is a little bit more of a difficult item to fix in the field. Now, regardless, it's a good set of pants, and it will serve you well should you want to drop the money on that. Now, we've kind of gone over our airsoft or paintball pants and our BDU ACU / kind of somewhere right above their tier. So you kind of understand what we're kind of looking at for a base combat pant. We want a good material, we want a slim cut if at all possible, and we want good pocket placement, and we want reinforced stitching where needed, or some type of stretch panel to ensure that we don't have blowouts. Because as you can see, one of the biggest concerns that I have, especially with these pants, is having any type of blowout in the crotch or somewhere else, because that leads to more time for me in the field to repair that, and that's a pain in the ass. So you don't want to have to deal with that if at all possible. So from here, we're going to be going into our pants that are going to cost you a little bit more. We're talking $100 plus, but they're also going to last you a much longer time. So one of my favorite pants, and also the most affordable on the list, is what's called the Crye Field Pants. So, Crye Field Pants, what makes them good? What makes them good is that you have the Crye cut, but you have a couple of design features that were cost saving, but ended up in some cases making the Crye Fields, I think, superior to the Combats in a couple ways. Now, overall, the Crye Combat Pants are way more superior to the Fields, but there are a couple things I really like about the Fields and that make them really well suited to any type of field usage. So if you're a Crye or die kind of guy like I am, and it's no secret that I love Crye products, you'll be happy to know that they made a home run with this product as well. As you can see here, the fly has buttons, which I'm a huge fan of, as you know, because those are so easy to repair in field. Now, a problem that a lot of guys have, and I do as well, is that all the pockets are Velcro. So that can be a problem if you're running any type of op where you need to be quiet, because what's going to happen is that Velcro is going to make noise pretty much no matter what you do. What some people tend to do is they can fold the pockets in. That way you don't have to use the Velcro, but then you have a chance of your items falling out. So it's kind of a hit or miss. Some guys end up pulling the Velcro off and installing buttons themselves. Again, if you have to make those modifications based on what you do, go ahead and decide before the op, and do it before the op, don't do it during the op, because that's going to take a little bit of time. Let's talk a little bit about the Crye cut. So first off, what is the Crye cut? The Crye cut of the pants itself is a little more high crotched. What that means is it gives you a little bit more flexibility, freedom of movement compared to a crotch that's lower. So you're going to need to be wearing these pants a little higher, i.e. where your actual waist is. So that can be a surprise for a lot of you who like to sag your pants down, but it's going to pay you dividends when you're actually having to move. The Crye pants also have the pockets on the front. Now, I'm a huge fan of these because if you need to get to your dip is right there. It's easy to get to and pull out. Those front pockets are great also for holding cell phones, basically things that don't matter. I'm just kidding. The front pockets are awesome though. I usually keep some type of field notebook in there, such as a Write in the Rain, and it's just a good pocket to have. Now, don't keep anything that's bulky in that pocket, because when you go prone, it's going to kind of suck. You're probably going to break whatever in there if it's fragile, or it's just going to get in the way. So again, just different things to realize as you go into using these pants out in the wild. Now, what makes these pants truly shine compared to the Crye Combats is that they have internal knee pads. So they use the Crye Airflex knee pad. Now, the problem is that they don't have any type of adjustment system. So what that means is you can't adjust the height of the knee pad like you can with the Crye Precision combat pants. So you need to make sure that you get your sizing dead on with these pants to ensure that the knee pad is at the correct height when you take a knee. Otherwise, you're going to take a knee and the knee pad's not going to be at the correct position, and that's going to suck. So if, just for reference's sake, I'm about 6 foot and I need to wear the I need to wear the longs as far as the inseam is concerned. I don't know why, but the regulars are just a little too short for me, where one, the knee pads don't line up, and also where it looks like I'm wearing like tactical capri pants. And it's all about looking cool, so we don't want that to happen. So if you're 6 foot or above, definitely get the longs. If you're sitting at like 5'11", I'd still go with the longs. Anywhere below that, you should be good at the regulars. As far as for manlets out there, I'm not sure at what point you should go to the short on the Cryes, because we don't have a whole lot of short guys in my career field. Regarding the internal knee pads, what makes internal knee pads so good is that when you're moving through thick brush, there's no chance that a branch is going to snag your external knee pad and rip it out, because your knee pad is internal. So if you're moving through really rough terrain, jungle, that type of thing, it's a good idea to have internal knee pads. And it's for this reason that I really like these, because a lot of the things that I do require me to go through dense foliage and forests, and those external knee pads on the Crye Combats are more likely to get snagged and ripped out. Now, moving through the desert, no big deal. The Crye knee pads work just fine. There's nothing to really snag them out there. But get into the forest with those things and you're going to start to see some problems. So again, that's why I like the internal knee pads on the Crye combat pants. So again, good little thing, easily changeable. The one thing you will run into with the internal knee pads on these Crye Precisions is that you're going to wear the actual material, the ripstop fabric, on the outside of the knee pad through pretty quickly if you're taking a knee a lot, doing a lot of dynamic things. So have some extra multicam fiber on fabric on hand to sew it up and repair it as necessary. Or, you know, your unit has a big enough budget where they can just reimburse you for that crap. Another great thing about the Crye Combats is that they have a really wide belt loop that is quadruple mega stitched right here. So it's going to be able to hold up any type of gun belt. Now, the bad thing is that compared to the Crye Combats, it's not padded or overly wide to help distribute that weight even better. Because of that, if you're wearing a gun belt, you're probably better suited to moving over to the Crye combat pants. Just some different things to realize. Also, the pockets right up here high on the waistline are just about impossible to get to when you have these things on. What a lot of guys end up doing is we end up cutting right here at the edge down on the side of our hip right there. That way we can get our hands into our pockets, because otherwise it's pretty difficult, even for skinny guys like myself. So we have the Crye field pants. And they run you about, I think about 120 or so, money well spent. I think the Crye Airflex, I've never bought these, but I want to say about $20 or so. I'll link them on my page for you guys. All right, so we've talked about the Crye fields. Let's go ahead and let's move over into our combat pants. So we're going to take a moment to talk about why the Crye G3 combat pants are the combat pants by which all other combat pants are typically judged. What it comes down to is Crye did it very well. So let's talk about what they did well. So if we look at the waist, first off, the waist is wide and it's padded. That's to help keep it a little bit more comfortable when you have a belt on with a bunch of guns, equipment, IFAKs, and all the other cool guy crap we want to have on there. The belt loops are wide and reinforced and double, triple, quadruple stitched, just like the Crye fields. And this helps support those wide gun belts and also all that weight that's going to be bearing down on them and all the stress that they're going to be put under. What's also good, if you notice at the very back how wide it is, if you go right below there for about 3 inches or so, you have a stretch material. What that does is when you're bending over, it's not going to pull your pants down off your butt, so it keeps the belt in the place it should be. It's extremely helpful in practice. If you'll notice, for the most part on these G3s, they have stretch panels exactly where you need them. The other stretch panel that was really well thought out was right on the crotch. That stretch panel ensures that our crotches aren't blown out and we're not dropping our junk in the middle of an op, because let's be honest, who wears underwear in the desert? You also have stretch panels right above the knee to relieve any stress there from taking a knee. Now, we have our dip pockets still, but if you notice, there's now a bungee cord coming out of them. What that is that is linked to our knee pad, and it allows us to adjust the height of those knee pads. So why that's good? Because depending on your height, and everybody's a little bit different, those knee pads need to sit at a different area on the pant to ensure that they interface correctly with your knees when you take a knee. So that allows you to get the correct height, and then you have some external adjustments. That way you can Velcro that down to your knees to ensure that it's going to stay in place. That way when you take a knee, you're not having to worry about it slipping off and then you put your knee directly into a rock, which is very painful, which I have done with the Crye fields. So that is one really good thing about the Crye Combats. Now, if you remembered earlier, I talked about how the external knee pads can get caught in branches and rip out of your pants during ops, and that's something you don't want to have happen. What I have done, and I learned this from an ops NCO who went to Korea, and he learned it from some high-speed guys, is you take the knee pads and you simply tuck them into the knee pad pocket. Now, it's not going to interface with the Velcro anymore, but what it's going to do is ensure that there's not a lip there, like on this, like on the other side that's not tucked, that there's not a lip there where the branch can catch it and tear it out. So again, you kind of lose a little bit and you gain a little bit because it can still snag the material itself and rip it, but I find that in dense foliage that it's a good idea to tuck in those knee pads to ensure that they don't get removed from your pants. So just a little FYI for those of you who might need that little bit of knowledge. The cargo pockets on the Crye G3s also have a little bit of elastic. That way you can put your mags and keep your mags in place when you're running around. It's really easy when you're doing a mag change just to slap it inside your cargo pocket, and that little elastic retainer is going to keep it from moving anywhere. Or conversely, maybe you actually keep some spare mags there. Might be a little heavy though, but something that you can do because you have the option based on what they've done with their pants. So that is why the Crye Combats are such a good pair of pants. Now it is that 50-50 blend, so it's not going to melt or drip, it's just going to burn. So be aware it's not fully flame retardant like some of the pants we're about to talk about in a second here. All right, so we've talked about Crye up to this point. I'm a Crye or die type guy, so big fan of them, but there are other very good pants out there that are manufactured by a variety of companies, and I wanted to take a moment to talk about them. Now, in a lot of cases, I haven't had the chance to use these pants because I'm not going to buy them because I get issued perfectly good pants, which are the Crye Precision pants. But nonetheless, they offer some different features and some different build kind of philosophies. And it might be interesting if you're going to be buying them on your own to take a look at them just so you know what options are out there. So first off, another very comparable brand as far as combat pants go is going to be Beyond Clothing. It's their A9 uniform set. So they have a couple different pants out there. Realize what's interesting with their combat pants is instead of doing an external knee pad, they do an internal knee pad. So to me, it's kind of the best of both worlds. What they've done is there is no chance that that external knee pad is going to get ripped out. They have all the internal adjustments that the Crye has, all that type of stuff. So from what I've read about them, it's very good. I've actually never tried them on, so I can't really speak much to their build quality. But what I will say is that any of the Beyond clothing that I've gotten issued has been superb, and I've really come to like the company quite a bit. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if their pants were excellent. I'm hoping to get my hands on a pair of their pants soon to do a review on, so I can bring that knowledge to you guys, but more on that later. Right, so we have Beyond Clothing. Another company that we have, which is excellent, is Arc'teryx. So some people have asked me, hey, Garand, how is Arc'teryx? Well, it's awesome. You can't really say anything bad about Arc'teryx, except that they have a kind of a weird design aesthetic at times where you look at it and you're like, that doesn't really look good, but it's built so well and it's made by Arc'teryx and it has the dead bird on it that I kind of want to wear it for whatever reason. And that's kind of the case with the Arc'teryx Leaf Assault Pant, which is their combat pant. I'm not issued this, but a couple of my buddies are, who are in way more Gucci units than I am. And so when we've gone to courses, I met back up with these guys and they're wearing all Arc'teryx gear and they're super cool, unlike me, you know, rocking Crye and Beyond Clothing. But their combat pant is interesting. So they have an internal knee pad, is similar to the Beyond Clothing. Actually, I think it's the same one. I believe it's a D3O. But on the outside, they have a thick reinforced layer of fabric to ensure that it's not going to get worn through. Kind of that thing I was worried about with the Crye field pants. Another thing that they have with the Arc'teryx Assault Pant is there's no dip pocket. So if you're a dipper, it's just over at that point. They have all the internal knee adjustments that you'd come to expect from the Crye Combat. It's just a different kind of design aesthetic. Now, Arc'teryx uses their own type of fabric. I couldn't find much information on it. I'm sure it's out there, but I just don't have a whole lot of time to research. I mostly go off of what I know and I explain that and expound upon it based on my experiences. And when it comes to the Arc'teryx combat pants, they look good. I've heard great things from the guys who have been issued them. I haven't had a chance to wear them or put them on or anything like that, but I felt them a lot. and they feel good. So if you're considering getting the Arc'teryx, I doubt you'd be underserved if you were to wear them. Just realize that that price, it's getting a little high. From what I've seen, you're looking around $350 to maybe $300 to $350, depending on if you found a deal or not. So that is a thing. If you need better flame resistant characteristics or flame retardant characteristics, they do offer a flame retardant pant that is built specifically to ensure that the fabric is non-flammable. So depending on your operating environment, that might be something for you. I know some of these Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments can get pretty lit, so you might need to do that. The other company that I want to talk about is Drifire. Drifire is an awesome company. Most common user of Drifire is Marsoc. I'm sure you've seen them in their woodland combat pants, and they don't look like they're quite Crye, or they used to actually back in the day, back when Crye and Drifire worked together. And I think they still do. But anyhow, Drifire has released their own combat pant that has really good flame retardant properties, and is also very durable and lasts a long time. And that's a problem I've seen with a lot of flame retardant pants, is they tend to wear out very quickly. But from guys who I've seen rocking the Drifires, and when I have seen them, again, I've touched them a lot and they feel good. But I've never gotten to wear them or use them for any extended period of time, so I can't comment much on how they actually perform. But from talking to guys who have used them and who you know, have slept in them, done all that good stuff with them, they have nothing bad to say. And from what they've told me, they tend to last longer than many of the combat pants currently on the market. I can't comment on that myself because I haven't had the chance to test that. But I have but I have no reason to doubt these individuals. With the Drifires, they also have internal knee pads. They use the D3O system, and excellent system. Their material is reinforced on the outside to ensure it won't wear through as quickly, but of course eventually it will. Perhaps keep some extra fabric on hand to repair as necessary, unless you're in a super Gucci unit and they just buy everything for you and they give you 50 pairs of pants. Alright guys, so we finished our discussion on combat pants. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to comment. No matter what, we look cool because we don't wear hockey pants.